Welcome to the Waiting List podcast. Tell us a story.
It's like many things you start building from scratch.
And then I'm like, wait, I really do like watches because
You've seen so many watches that makes you excited.
I think I really do like watches.
Yeah. I think it's a great way to see if you are a watch enthusiast. Right, welcome to the Waiting List podcast, where I, Daniel, am joined by Lang Lang and Jacqueline. Man, I love it when it's podcast time, especially like when it's Friday, because it's like like early session out, like license to have fun and piss about. Anyway, back to this. Today we welcome someone that is very active on IG and is probably better known for his IG handle, which is Biaoist, but his actual name is Joe. So welcome to the show, Joe.
Welcome,
Thank you.
Joe.
Hi.
Thank you for having me.
For sure.
All right. So a bit of background, Joe is a watch collector. He works in the financial industry. And I had the fortune of meeting him in person at the Shanghai Watch Festival a few years back, which was a real pleasure. So this is actually going to be a two-parter episode. There's just too much to cover. So let's not waste any time, because I'm always on a strict timeline with these girls. And let's get into it. Right now, you were sincere enough to talk to me about your career. And one of the things that you mentioned to me that stuck in my mind was that you are a boss guy. And it's something that I wanted to address, especially because we do have younger listeners. Could you explain what do you mean by boss guy, and how did you come to value this as the most important?
Thank you for that question, Dan. When I mean boss guy, I actually meant leadership. Virtually all the good leaders that share the leadership is a trait of confidence. They are be able to make the tough decisions, lead with authority, and to be confident. Leaders are able to reassure and inspire others, establish open communication, and encourage teamwork. So when I have led, I have led many like projects at clubs, both personally and professionally, during my younger years and my professional years. I have led the sort of student association, and I funded the street race car club back when I was in university. And now I'm actually enjoying funding the watch club in Taiwan, and which you guys are part of my inspiration. Like Daniel, Alex, and Lang Lang have said, this friendship will build over watch hobby is so incredible. So that's thought that my leadership role or for what I've done in the past actually helped me, and I think that's something that I want to sort of share with other watch enthusiasts.
Okay, but I'd like to just go back a little bit. So you value the leadership that you see in your boss, right? So I think you said to me that is more important than the money, right? And a lot of people, when they graduate, I'm not saying this is everybody, they will go for the money. They'll think about the money and less about, and maybe kind of think, oh, this is what I want to do. Yeah, like, okay, I'm kind of interested in this. I'm going to get paid a lot of money for it. But you were very strict on, no, do you know what? It's the boss. So it's the leader. Why is it so impactful to you to follow that right person and put the other factors aside as less important?
Yeah. I don't know. It's not, I don't know. Sorry. I know that because when I was offered many jobs offers before, and when I was trying to choose my jobs, and I always know that if I go with the managers who inspire me and can lead me to a good place, I really don't matter that where I end up being, because I know I'm with the good people. And I know that I can learn from the person that I'm working with or working for. So that actually really helped me on my career. So it actually has never failed me in terms of when I was choosing between jobs offers, and then I go for the one that truly inspired me, that I actually be happy to work under. So that's why I think leadership is very important, because they really do inspire people. They enable their peers or someone working for them to be where they are, where they can become or where they can achieve.
Mm. Well, thank you for that piece of advice. I'm sure a lot of younger listeners will appreciate that. Basically truths coming out there. And it sounds very much like you are a very strong people person. People really matter to you. I think also you kind of proved that piece of advice because just by the sheer number of watch pieces you have amassed over the time, there's truth in what Long Long always says, that regarding this podcast, if you're in a position of acquiring many watch pieces, then you're probably making a few right decisions in your life. And talking about watches, can you still remember your first piece and how you got it? What was the story with the first piece?
Yeah. I think I still vividly remember my first few watches I owned. I don't know how I got it. Probably my mom or my dad got it for me. That was my childhood. There's two pieces in particular. One is the Casio calculator, and the other one is Casio remote controllers. Yeah, I actually had a lot of fun memories of changing TV channels in my classroom when I was a kid. I still vividly remember my first few watches. I don't remember exactly how I got them because I was an elementary school kid, and I probably my dad or parent got it for me, or I got money from my parents for that. And anyways, the two particular watch in particular is one is the Casio calculator, and the other one is Casio remote controllers. That I had like a lot of fun memories of changing my TVs in the TV channel in my classroom back when I was in elementary school.
Okay, so Dan, sorry to disturb you, but then Dan is like laughing about how me and Jacqueline are confused about the watch changing the channel. So can you explain?
Yeah.
Well, okay, the reason why I was laughing because that you're not talking about. Obviously, you guys know about the digital calculator watch, right?
Yes.
So that was a very common watch, right? But actually, the TV watch, the reason why I'm smiling as he's talking about it is because if you had the TV controlling watch, you were in a different stratosphere of like high level, because that was everybody kind of got that calculator watch, but that remote controlled watch, because it was more expensive, quite significantly more expensive, so only a few people had them. And if you had those, then people thought, oh wow, he's like got the Richard Mille or something like that.
Oh wait, and then you can change the TV channels.
And then you can, because it's remote control, it's got information. You can change the TV in the lesson, because back then, oh my god, this must be going over Jacqueline's head. But there used to be TVs in the classroom.
I'm more confused. Like, why are you guys watching TV in class? You have a TV.
They used to put the TV on. We're talking we're not even talking about like LCD or LED. We're talking about
square one.
The CRT. Cathode ray tube ray.
Yeah, but
look at Jacqueline's face. Her face is like, what
program the remote? Like, how do you?
No. It just means that you're cool enough that you get to choose the channel. That the class is like in prison, like the ultimate prisoner chooses a channel.
Oh my god!
No, what it means is
a watch that you can actually program code to switch TV channels.
Well, what it was, right? And Joe, you'll have to confirm whether this is right or not, right? Because you're I was never in your kind of class of owning this remote one, right? You had to type in a code that matches the manufacturer of that TV.
Correct.
So there was like Sony, there was like Philips, there was maybe Panasonic. Samsung wasn't even on the game back then. And then you'd put in that code, and as a teacher would have the proper remote. So she would press the TV, and then she wouldn't know who was changing the channel.
Wait, so it is changing the channel. It's not like you have the cool watch and then you can choose which channel to.
Yeah.
I'm so confused.
Well, you're sitting there as an anonymous person, right? And it's funny because someone is changing the channel when the teacher wants to put it on, let's say, channel 1, right? And you're putting it on like channel 3, and she's trying to figure out who's doing it. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
No, it doesn't.
How do you do that? Like, how does the watch do that? By a punch code?
Yeah.
But then how do you know?
Punch code, it's got infrared. It's got infrared.
Oh, I know, but like, how do you know what punch code your school's TV has? It would make sense if
you'd research it beforehand.
Yeah, it's in the manual.
Yeah, it's not like
So-
there's a new TV in your room every day. Yeah, so you'd see the TV and you'd be like, yeah, it's that brand. I'll go home, check the code, yeah, and then I punch it in for the lesson.
Okay,
So
just
every
just
brand of TV
yeah.
had the same code.
A
A
different,
different
code.
code.
Yeah, but
Different
how
code.
would you know? Like,
It's in the menu, in the Casio menu.
So it's like Apple Watch, but it's like Apple TV, right? You know how you can change the channel using your phone? Did you guys
Yeah.
know that?
Yeah,
it's like that,
I
yeah,
was like,
like
you
that.
guys, I just
Yeah.
taught you something.
Similar, I guess.
no, I thought the closest thing that I could wrap my head around was when I was growing up and I had like an Apple iPod Touch, and there was an app, I forget the name, but then you can download it and then you can program, it was something like Magic Mouse or something, and then you can program it to link to your desktop. So I would always pull pranks to my parents because when they're using the actual mouse that's linked to the desktop, I would just be on my little Apple Touch and like scroll and they wouldn't be able to drag their cursor to where they want to go because I'm here manipulating that. So when you said that a
Dude.
watch
Yeah.
could be linked to a TV to switch channel, that was the first thing that I drew connection to. But then I made sense of that because I actually had to link the app to the desktop, but it didn't make sense to me how there's a physical manual that you can go home, flip through, find the brand of the TV that your school has, and then
Yeah.
like how do you link it? Do you
Yeah.
because you know how when you're yeah, like please explain.
Sure. So I mentioned about Casio calculator watch, right? So think of it that as think of a remote. So the remote watch actually reference number is a CMD 40. So if you look up CMD 40 on Casio, you can find it. You can see how it looks like. It actually looks like a calculator watch with like sort of like volume up or channel up, channel down on the side.
Oh
And
my
then,
gosh.
so and then there's an infrared on top of the watch. So you basically enter the manufacturer code for that brand, and then you're able to change channel. Yeah, like using like looking like a calculator as well as the remote. So
Okay.
I thought it was pretty
I'm
cool.
sorry.
Oh my
I
God,
just thought it was
this
so
is
funny
amazing.
How when you first explained it, and Long felt so bad because I didn't understand, and Long's answer was, "No, you know how they switch the control? It's because you're cool or hip enough to get the watch. So
No, that's what Dan
you're cool
said.
and you can control the remote."
No, that's okay. My first interpretation was you use your watch to change channel, which is what it is, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
then you
Dan
went
was
on
like,
to that whole
no,
prison
right?
thing.
Yeah. So then I was like, okay, no. He means that you have this watch, like a Richard Mill, Dan was saying, right? Therefore, other people have to be like, fine, you choose the channel. You know what I mean?
Oh no, that did happen though. That did happen because if you know, it's true. If you had more than one person with that watch, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about kids here, yeah. That person would also be trying to change the channel, right? And he would be trying to change it onto his, yeah. And then he would have his cronies with him, yeah, backing him up, saying, "Oh, it's on the channel that I picked, right? Rather than Joe's channel that he had picked, right, Joe?
Okay,
So it became a game of speed.
Okay, so a better analogy is like when we try and like connect to Bluetooth speakers nowadays. So everyone's like trying to connect theirs, right?
Yeah.
But then it's like the ultimate phone will connect it.
Yeah. You can say that.
Yeah, it's like that. Yeah.
There's like there's one speaker, and then you want to play your music, and everyone's connected, so then everyone just takes turns playing their music.
Dude, this watch is amazing. Just looking at it, I'm like, it looks amazing.
Yeah.
The main thing is that you had to be the person where the teacher singled you out as responsible because then you were the coolest.
I'm also really surprised that given that I thought my school was very like lax and cool and chilled, right? We never watched TV. The only time we watched TV was in biology, but it was like biology related.
Wait, that's totally what happened to me. We watched a birthing video.
Same.
Yeah, imagine some kid in that classroom who was able to change TV when everybody got so bored. Well, when teacher leaves the room.
I don't know if this is like with you guys, but did you find that a lot of sex ed sexual education, like sexual reproduction, was like TV based. And I'm thinking back to it, maybe because the
Yeah.
teachers felt embarrassed about talking
Of
about it.
course.
Yeah,
No,
so
of
like they used
course.
to put it on, and it's like, huh, what am I watching? And then it'd
I
be like,
remember
why?
my
Yeah.
first sex ed class. I was in
Yeah.
grade 5. And this was
Uh-huh.
after I moved to Canada, and I had no idea what anything was. I didn't know how babies came from. I thought because the way that my parents had like very roughly described to me was, I don't know if I can say this, but like well, yeah, I can because he's not listening. When I was like a kid, I found a condom in my dad's closet and I didn't know what it was, so I opened it up and I was playing around with it. I was like, why is it so oily? um and then so in the morning when my ayi saw because I had slept in my dad's room, my dad was on like chuchai, and then she had seen that I had opened it, and then she was like, oh, what did you do with this? I was like, I don't know, I just found it and I was like playing around with it. And she's like, oh, and I asked, what is this? And she's like, oh, this is I forget what she said, but I
Balloon.
remember it was something related to having children. So then I was like, oh, is this how kids are conceived?
Like create.
Yes. So then what was explained to me later on was that you attach one end. So this is what I thought. Okay. So you know how it's like a tube shape, and I thought that how kids are conceived is you attach one end to the mom's belly button, and then you attach the other end to the dad's belly button, and you sleep like this. After one night, she's pregnant. So this is my mind as a 10-year-old going to Canada right before I had my first sex ed class. And I remember in my first sex ed class, I was still not fluent in English, so I didn't know what was happening. I just remember a bunch of people from outside of the school came over with big baskets, and you were supposed to pick out items, and there were questions written on papers, and you're supposed to go around passing the bowl and ask the question, and the person would answer. So we did that, and then the last segment was you pick an item out of the basket, and then that you think is interesting, and then you ask the question or you examine it or whatever. So I remember like some kid picked out like a wooden banana, so then they had to teach like how to put the condom on, but then I had no idea what was happening. So the only thing that made the most sense to me was a book. And so I picked the book, and when I opened it up, it was a pop-up book. So like like this. And I was like, what is this? So I was in grade 5, and then I had two friends that I made over Naruto who were a year older than me, had to explain to me, oh yeah, you know what the class that we had was, right? I was like, not really. Can you explain to me? And I still remember her name. Her name is Christine. She had like purple bleached hair, and she was like, no, it's a class on how to protect yourself from being pregnant. I was like, oh, so what is pregnant? Because I didn't speak English back then. And she's like, oh, baby born. I was like, oh, okay, so how do you do that? Like, and she basically did the hand gesture and then pointed, and then that was the first time that I had some sort of idea of how children were conceived, but I still had no idea, because the way she explained it to me, I was still relating back to the attaching one end to the belly button and then attaching the other end and staying like that for a night. So I thought when she had explained that procedure, aka intercourse, I thought you had to do that like all night long to like to have a child. So it wasn't until like I was in middle school did I understand what everything was. So going back to a conversation we had like a few days ago, I think it's very important, parents out there, to explain to your kids this early on, because like I had no idea and I was 12. So yeah. Anyways.
Okay, so how would you okay, we cannot just like digress completely, but how would you explain it then if you have a kid now?
How would I explain to my kid how a child is conceived?
Yeah, and your kid's like 10.
Okay,
No,
so
your
I
kid's
would,
12. Your kid's 12.
and my kid doesn't know. Okay, so I would
Yeah.
say, you know, mommy and daddy love you very much. And when mommy and daddy love each other and they want to have a kid, oh my God,
You tie
cer-
this end to the belly button and you tie it to the
no, I
your
can't
belly
do
button.
that. Certain mommy and daddy have to go do this thing that involves a lot of love and emotion, and uh and then so I don't know. Oh my God, I actually don't know. How do you explain this to a kid?
Well,
How
the
would
thing
you
is,
explain it to them?
you can't always go too detailed with kids yet, because if you go, that just leads to more questions,
Yes.
right?
So
And
that's
then
why I'm
not
trying.
necessarily have that maturity to understand. And let's be honest, if you tell certain kids that and they go to school, it's like, all right, we need to check the parents out. Like, how do they know all this? It's a
Yeah.
bit too much. But Joe, you're sitting there dumbfounded. You probably you never probably thought that this remote controlled
Yeah, I know.
Casio watch would
That's
lead
exactly
to
what I'm thinking.
having babies, right? Yeah. But this is the Waiting List podcast. No barriers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
But we got to pull it back to watches.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you had that remote controlled watch, and then how about
Yeah.
your first like luxury watch, or what you would consider as luxury?
Yeah. My first foray into the luxury watch was what I'm wearing right now, actually, the Casio, but sorry, Cartier Tank Solo XL in
Mm.
automatic. I got I got it in Tokyo when I was going there for university reunion back in 2017. I actually totally forgot about that. I actually went there for reunion until I actually started looking at old pictures. I thought I was going there for snowboarding then, and which I do every year. But why did I get the Cartier tank? Is because I was inspired by Tom Ford. He said that, and I resonate with him, is that the watch should be discreet, and that also sort of opened up the world of Cartier for me. Later on, then I started looking at the collection private Cartiers, and then I got really deep into watches. Then I went to Shanghai Watch Festival. I met you, Alvin, Calvin, Jack, and Long Long. Right, actually in 2019, after I bought my Cartier collection private Tunnel.
Mm.
So yeah, that
Yeah.
That was the first like luxury watch that you would consider you buying?
yeah. Because I
see.
was like Daniel was saying earlier, I work in the financial industry. I wear suits every day, and then I do find that a blue sapphire that sticks out of the
The cabochon.
collar. Yeah,
Oh.
cabochon. Yeah, the cabochon sticks out. Just being really discreet about it, but everybody who sees it knows it's a Cartier. It just it sort of resonate with me. I really like that look. So
Yeah, long.
Yep,
So, I know very little people that can actually quote like fashion people like Tom Ford. So does that mean like you were first a fashion person and then that kind of like went into watches?
yeah,
You
that's
do know
right.
Andy Zhang. He loves Tom Ford.
So,
Andy
yeah,
Zhang.
but so for Andy though, so for Andy, you can just tell like he's like just from the way he's so into like even denim, right? You
Right,
know
who's
he's a
with him?
huge fashion person, yeah. So then I'm wondering if Joe was fashion first or watches first.
Yes, I was fashion first.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I got into watches because of it actually goes with my suit and my look. So I'm actually fashion first watch guy.
Yeah. I
Okay.
see Joe riding his bike wearing suits. And I'm like, wow, that's
What?
yeah, he rides
Yeah,
his bike to work, I think, and then he's always
yeah.
wearing a suit riding his
Yeah.
bike with his watch because he always takes the wrist shot like that, like looking down at on the bike. Like that's really cool. So I knew like even though he's dressed in t-shirt right now, I know he like wears suits every day.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's not that different to Alex. Alex again, finance guy, and finance. He wears a suit every single day. It's hard to get him out of a suit even on the weekend. and the watch was totally
Secondary.
accessorized really to
Mm.
elevate his what he's wearing.
Yep.
But one can always quite successfully argue that you need at least one watch, right, to complete your outfit. But then after that, let's be honest, there's no need to necessarily get a second one. So what changed in your mindset that made you think, I want to get more pieces? Because I believe you kept getting more Cartier initially. Is that right?
Yeah, I have. The reason I'm getting more pieces is that, as Lolo mentioned, I actually fashion first collector. So a simple answer is that I actually need one for each shape. I need one tunnel, I need one rectangular, I need one square, different variants, and then I need one with digital display, jump hours, and time only, or chronograph flat back, right? And also different color of dial that actually matches my outfits, my suits and shoes and belts. So after hear you guys, this previous guest who was also the guest on the podcast, Hugo, forgot his last name, but
Hugo Jacome.
Jacome, yes. I think matching is something he say something right. And then I later on resonate a little bit is that when you match so much, sometimes you are looking like you are trying too hard just to be comfortable with what you're wearing. Is that will bring the best of you. So yeah, and then later I don't really match very much, but initially I'm trying to get all the different dial colors and different shapes as I started my collection early.
And as you've progressed from in your watch collecting journey, has that still been the same? Is it really about accessorizing to you, or do you have a different philosophy now?
Yeah, at first, when I was trying to get watches, I'm also trying to get like a quintessential watch from each watch brands, which I admire. Like so like and usually I try to get the first version of each or of a series of the watch, because I always find the novelties or the new version a bit of kind of trying to copy the original one. So if I could or can afford one, I will try to get the original ones. So I have a few, like my Seiko is the first diver from 1965. I have the reissue reversal 1931. I'm pretty sure Dan, you're pretty familiar with it. That's a reissue because the one actually from 1931 I couldn't afford, but that was the first like a reversal of all these different reversals that's out there. So that's why I thought I would get that. I have the Ming copper 1706. That is actually the watch that catapulted the brand of Ming watches, because that one actually helped them to win one of the awards in the Grand Prix of watches, right? And then I also have the Chrono Tokyo's first anniversary edition Mori. The first anniversary edition Mori, and the green dial. That's pretty nice. And I think I said this. I have different Cartiers and Santos Dumont being like first wristwatch. Back from 1900s, it's actually must have. Yes, Dan?
Yeah, I was gonna say, so it's pretty clear that you like to collect probably the iconic watch and one watch per brand, and then you want it to be the first one, right?
Trying to, yes.
Okay, so that's going to be a pretty long journey because there's a lot of brands out there, and if you're even collecting, no disrespect to Ming, then you are looking at a large amount of brands. When is this how you plan on keep collecting, or is there a different end game, do you think?
I don't have an end game. I think watch collecting is a long journey. Unless you run out of money, then that's your end game. But yeah, right. So actually, it's not like every watch brand. I do have a friend who had like a friend working in the same building as me, who's also in the Redbar Taiwan. He has iconic watch of each brand. I mean, seriously having all of them, or even each series, and that's why his goal was. And he has amassed maybe 150 watches already, and most of them are modern. Yeah, all of them are modern, I think. So, but going back to a point is that it just depends on what I like, and then I really try to see if this watch has more story. And then, as you guys know, that if a watch is quintessential of that series, that usually have a lot of history and story attached to it. So that's why, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Long Long.
If you are speaking about collecting the most iconic of each brand, I know you just picked up the Zeitwerk recently, right? So what was your thought process? Like, why didn't you get the Lange one?
Good question. I like that question.
Yeah.
Very good question.
Yeah, actually, the Zeitwerk, I always admire from afar. It is something that I never thought I would be able to own one day. And the reason I got it is that the I think recent release of the Audacious of Lange that actually sort of define the brand, or define the grammar of design of how Lange looks like, the big they must have. Following that Dresden opera house, and having this side by side, it seems similar to the Audacious, and then given that it's actually the repertoire movement from Lange, and then I when I think of Lange, or being, and I think of, like, let's say if I want to look for an independent watch that actually is different, it's completely different from all the classical traditional watch out there. And given that Lange is such a classical and traditional brand, Zeitwerk was completely out of this world in terms of, like, how would Lange come out with this like 10 years, 12 years ago. So that's a reason why I think Lange being the brand itself, and Zeitwerk being the first digital display, and then nothing come before it. It's very iconic for me, or very quintessential for that series of the display watches for me. So that's why I got it.
Okay.
That's very interesting, because Lange 1, I think, is totally epitomizes Lange. Without the Lange 1, nothing really happens. You don't get the Zeitwerk. And there isn't really anything on the market that has that design, like an amazing. So I would say Lange 1 is really strong on that brand. However, I totally get your point when you talk about the Zeitwerk and the whole Dresden thing. That designed watch with that mechanism, that time displaying method, I don't know another brand that does that. So you could easily say it's unique to them. And I'm sure people are going to message in and say, no, there's actually this brand. Please do that and educate me. But one thing that I think resonates with me is Lange. I've always seen them as the chronograph kings. So for me, Lange and chronographs is like synonymous. You've got the double split, triple split, data graph. The strongest, I think we're not lying when it says they have the strongest chronographs in that segment, right?
Yeah, they
and
do.
Perhaps the best in the world. So yes. I think it's a great thing for Lange, in the fact that you can see so many strong. These are all good things about the brand, right?
Yeah.
But moving on, out of all the pieces you have, which is the most meaningful to you?
This one. I'm trying to think about it last night. And then I came to a conclusion is that the story that attached to my mom and my dad is the baby oak, the one that Jacqueline also have, the tantalum royal oak is actually most meaningful pieces to me. The reason because of it's actually a golf champion watch, so it celebrates a Nick Photo master win back in 1990s, and my dad who he loves golf, and so that, and he attached me and golf with him, and then the other thing that I attached the story that attached to my mom is that I bought it during the time I was grieving for my mom's death. So I just thought I would need something to remember my mom by, and just using that and then especially that watch is something that I try to hunt down like really early beginning of my watch collecting journey, and it came up on the market during that time. I was grieving my mom, so so I just buy it during that time, just to actually, when I look at it, I will think about my mom, and when I look at it, I'll think about my dad as well. So that's what's meaningful to me.
That's super powerful. Thank you for sharing that, Joe. Really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
As I was writing that question, though, I was also thinking in terms of Jacqueline, which is the most meaningful piece in your collection, because you've invested in so quickly, switching in and out. Which one's the most meaningful to you?
To be honest, I think it would have to be my first vintage Cartier. It was so the platinum Tank Louis with the burgundy numerals and the ruby crown, because it taught me something different. It completely came by surprise. I didn't expect to like it that much, and I did. And without that watch, I wouldn't have ventured into the history of the Maison. I wouldn't have did the research, and which led to my like where I am right now with collecting. So I think probably that one. Yeah. But then you've asked me this question before, like, oh, what's the one watch that, if your house was burning down, what's the one watch that you would take? Or if you could only have one, which one would it be? And my answer was very honest. I think I simply haven't been collecting that long to make emotional memories with each piece, which I myself think is very paramount. It should be what at least to me, I'm a pretty emotional person, so I like attaching memories to my watches. Unfortunately, with COVID, I just haven't been able to travel. I'm looking forward to, this is what I'm looking forward to. Like, once the borders open up and I can travel again, I can go to events, I can go to Europe. I can go do all these things with my watches, and then I will slowly attach memories to them. Whereas right now, it's like, because I started collecting at the peak, the beginning of COVID, I really haven't been able to do many things like that. So I guess that's like one thing I'm looking forward to, and why it's hard for me to pick one watch that is the most meaningful to me, because I just simply haven't been able to make memories yet, as of yet. So I think that's like a pretty honest answer. Yeah.
Good answer.
I have a quick question. Yeah. So let's say you are able to travel tomorrow, and you can only bring 3 watches to the international watch get together, like maybe in New York, or maybe in Hong Kong, or even Shanghai Watch Festival. Which 3 watches will you bring out of your collection?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would bring the Basculante, because I think that's like my most fun.
Your favorite?
It's hard to pick a favorite. It's like my most fun watch. I would pick that watch because I think people would like to see it. So I would pick it to, let the people see it, and it's really fun. I would definitely pick a time only. So maybe the Calatrava or my vintage Patek, tonneau, tortue shaped watch. And I would probably pick like a complication, so a perpetual. So one of the APs maybe. But that's a good question. Yeah, it would probably be like that, because I would still wear all of them. Yeah.
Okay, right. Joe, we're coming towards the end of this interview, and it's just absolutely flown by. But what can we look forward to seeing you get in the future?
Yes. I forgot to mention earlier that I'm a vintage Seiko and Grand Seiko collector myself. So and yeah, I have some of the very first the Grand Seikos or Seikos.
You have a VFA, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, that's something that I really enjoy. And then I'm really I don't know, should I be happy or be surprised, or I shouldn't be surprised that, Sotheby's and Philips are start like auctioning Grand Seikos and Grand Seiko watches in their auctions, and then seeing the VFA raising out in prices. I I'm I don't know. It's an awkward feeling. Like, are you happy that you actually already have one? But at the same time, you're like, oh, okay, well, and then you're happy that the watch gets the attention you deserve.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's just like, it's another brand is hooking on the hype train, and yeah, and it's just gonna raise in price. Hopefully it's not going that way, because I think Seiko and vintage Seiko is something that, everybody know that, it's something very rather affordable, and then anyone who want to buy one is, or if they have the sources to get it. But yeah, if you go look up in Japan, you still can find like vintage Seiko, and you can buy them. But now is getting there, like like how Cartier was, and vintage Cartier was, and then hopefully it's not going that much more expensive. So other collectors who actually are into collecting vintage watches or vintage Seikos will actually be able to afford them, buy them, and enjoy them.
Yeah.
On their risk. So back to the question, actually, Juan getting in the future. So it wouldn't make me a vintage Seiko or Grand Seiko collector if I don't have a King Seiko, right? Given it's a sort of like reissues recently. So I have a King Seiko, vintage King Seiko on the way. And I have given that I have as I work, and then I have a sort of interesting piece called the Seiko Discus Burger. It's all like there's Seiko's digital display watch also on the way, and also I have an independent Ming. So the Ming that is actually waiting to deliver in December or November timeframe. So I have 3 watches on the way.
Nice.
Such an exciting year.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
And I totally understand what you mean about VFA. What you hope is something like that gets the recognition, because it also proves that you were right about your own decision making. But then also, you want it to be recognized in the right group of people. And then once it exceeds that and goes to people that, although we shouldn't judge, you do judge people in a way, and you think, oh, he doesn't really know he doesn't value it or see it the way I see it, really. He doesn't appreciate it. He's bought it because of the hype, but I bought it for different reasons, right? You kind of never want the watch to be disrespected. That's probably a strong word in that kind of way. I mean, I had this recent conversation with Jacqueline with Cartier as well. Yeah. But Long, you were going to come in with a question?
It's not so much a question, but it's exactly the same point. I think Joe falls into the category of people that collect watches where you truly connect with the brand for very specific reasons. And then you want more people that appreciate that brand to get that same feeling that you had. So accessibility, the pricing was perfect. It's still a bit exclusive. You have to go and hunt for these pieces and so on. And then it just sucks, like when there's a lot of attention, half of you is happy because people recognize how great the brand is, but half of you is like, oh, that's the end of the brand, because now it's gonna get hyped up. Like you said, not the right type of people are gonna wear it. And then it just kind of changes it a little.
Yeah. It also changes the way that you feel when you wear it, right?
Yeah.
Because as much as we don't want to admit it, it kind of changed the flavor of things. When before the so-called hype or stuff, you can feel a sense of very like freedom and almost like a special bond between this watch and you, because no one knows what it is, and only you or those who know. But now it's like, if you're wearing the Crash outside, even if you bought it before the hype or whatever, it would be very easy for people to perceive you as, oh, you probably just bought it because it's a common watch. So and while you know that it's not true, but you also know that many people are thinking of you that way. So
Yeah.
it's very idealistic, I would say, to not be at all affected by this. I know I certainly would, at least a little bit, even though I don't like, I think I'm already pretty what's the word, like
Immune to it.
very sensitive, but I think I
Mhm.
could still be. So
Yeah.
that definitely like changes some aspect, some percentage of
Well, I
Mhm.
think we go back to what Joe said, watches are an extension of ourselves, how we express ourselves, right? And how we want to show ourselves to the world. And in the watch community, we are kind of naturally biologically programmed to be social animals. And we do want to be part of a certain, perhaps, club
yeah.
in our minds. And certainly that is the reason which has brought us together today. There's a lot of similarities which are expressed through the watches and the way you collect watches. If you were a different type of collector, maybe I wouldn't quite have that bond with you. So I think it's totally natural to have a different perception once that watch also falls into a different category of collecting.
I think
Yeah.
those are all like very understated, I would say.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so I agree. I totally agree with what Daniel says. I mean, this is why we sort of like create watch clubs, and because there's only so few that when right? And then if you get just like a few of us together, and then we just look at each other watches, and we don't have to explain, we don't have to say whatever it is. It's just we know what it is, and we don't have to, because I think that sometimes people look at watches as like social symbol and showing of wealth, but having a watch club that with a close group of people that actually know what they're doing or actually knows without explaining, that is such a fun thing to have.
For sure.
And now that leads me to my final question, which is, what is the best part of the hobby for you, and what do you enjoy the most?
I think meeting friends, making friends. I think that the watch collecting is such a lonely journey. We had it without Instagram. I don't know if it's actually good. It's a double-sided blade, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
with right. You have friends that introduce you to new brands, and then watch friends, and then you kind of buy more watches and become more poor every day. But but yeah, at the same time, you make friends along the way. So I think making friends is a huge part of why I'm collecting watches. I think even because I don't really make that many friends in real life. I mean, I'm quite sociable, but I'm trying to say is like anybody at work, because I wear a cuff, right? So I wear a suit, wear a cuff. Nobody ever sees my watches. My colleague never recognized my watches or know I'm a watch guy, and my watch is always under my cuff. It's only one time this is watch media actually do an interview on me, and one of my colleagues saw the video and reached out to me. He's like, "Was that you, Joe?" And then sort of kind of spread out a little bit, but I'm still a very discreet person at work. So yeah, so that's that I don't make. What I'm trying to say is I don't make friends around my work circles or my social circles, but when I'm on Instagram, I'm very active. I'm trying to make as many friends as I can in Asia, in Europe, in America, or even Australia's, and yeah, it's really enjoy part of this making friends process. And yeah,
I think what Joe is trying to say is watches makes us financially poor, but emotionally rich with memories and friends, which is certainly my experience.
Yeah.
Because like I really haven't really like met anybody during COVID.
You are totally different.
It's so funny that that's your takeaway from Joe, and then my takeaway was, so it sounds like Joe is living a double life.
I am.
Yeah, I was thinking exactly the same. I was thinking, Joe, all you have to do is take the glasses off when you do the interview. Nobody recognizes you then. Yeah, and in normal work, you wear the glasses, Clark Kent style, Superman.
Yeah.
But
That's actually what I'm doing right now. I typically don't wear glasses. I wear glasses to I wear glasses when I'm trying to, cover myself in my other life.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, why do you think I constantly wear glasses?
Yeah, okay. Handshake, virtual handshake.
Right. That was the final question to you, but we actually have some questions from yourself. So one question each. What have you prepped for us, Joe?
Sure. So and the first question is for Jacqueline.
Okay.
I know when I asked you about your 3 favorite watch when you travel, and then when you say basculon, and I thought that was something that you carry with you when your house is on fire. In the previous episode, you mentioned that the getting over the patek was a hump that you had to get over because you wouldn't put yourself in with that name together. Now, given that you actually have Patek, you have FP Journe, is there any next hump or next hump that you have to get over? So that's a question.
It's a good question. Haven't really thought about that. Can you remind me, what did I mean by the hump? Like,
It's something you wouldn't.
You have to get over something in order to get
something.
into it. So, you weren't ready for Patek and then
Yeah,
you got
because of
into
the name.
Patek.
Yeah.
The name. So that's what he means.
Okay.
I'll give you some thinking time. Joe, in the meantime, ask your second question.
Sure. The second question is for both Long Long and Daniel. Is trust issue a thing? What's the average time it takes you to think that it's okay, this watch girl or watch guys, all right, that we can be friends?
That's a really good question.
That's a really good question.
That's a really good question for Long and Dan.
At first, I was like, he's going to ask about trust buying over the internet. I was like, how relevant? But then I was like, okay, wait.
It's easy, Joe. Just get a burger. All right. Okay. Give me some time to think. So the question was, when it's a watch guy and a watch girl, is it? And then how do you come across trust issues? Is that what it is?
If it's a watch girl, I don't need it. Like, I'll
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I got it. Jack, have you got your answer yet? Long, have you got your answer?
Yeah.
Okay, you go then.
Okay, because mine is easy. It's like methodical. So my first thing with meeting people nowadays is I feel like I have seen and touched a lot of watches already. So I will only meet someone if it's a piece I have never seen and I really want to see close up, or I need to learn about that piece and I know I can't see it. So that's my first, does he meet this criteria? If he does not have any of the watches that I actually want to look at, and I have seen all his stuff already, but he is very genuinely, the key point being genuinely is just like, hey, do you want to meet up? Like, has the guts. Okay, this is not making any sense. I have to put this into context. Most people, they don't have the guts to just say, hey, do you want to meet? So it goes on this whole windy road of this and that. And you're just like, clearly you want to meet, but you're just too shy to ask. But if they just have the courtesy to say, hey, I would love to meet up, we can talk about watches, I will always give you time if I think you're a great and genuine person. And then thirdly is definitely from just talking through Instagram, you can tell if someone really loves watches or it's just fake stuff because you can see where the conversation is going. And then, that's basically it for me. I think and then just to be safe, I'll just choose a public place. Yeah. But it's quite straightforward for me because one, I think 99% of the accounts don't show the person's face. So I don't really care what you look like. And that's it. Yeah. What about you guys? What about Dan?
I think she mentioned something very early in that question, which was being genuine. Yeah. And I would say in the watch community that we live in, there are a lot of non-genuine, maladjusted individuals. Like, you'd be surprised when you're in such circles of wealth, how many people are completely maladjusted, like not stable emotionally, or just their thinking is really very different to yours. And if you have that genuine part, then there's a chance that a friendship can blossom. And I think that's the basis of any kind of relationship, right? And then if you can keep it over a set time, then that trust builds. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors in the collector community, partly because everybody feels there's a need to show off and be someone they're not, right? There seems to be this pressure of, and I think for someone like Long Long, I think that would really put the pressure on a lot of guys because, you know, one is she is very beautiful. Two is
Agree.
she has buying power that is greater than a lot of guys, and a lot of guys have problems dealing with that. So something that, yeah, knowledge as well. She has the knowledge. So when Long Long also mentioned in the question about confidence, so there was genuine and there was confidence, and I think these really strongly apply because she'll be able to sniff that like so easily off somebody. And the guys, how guys interact with guys in watch collecting is so different to when it's a guy with a girl. And actually, Long Long and I, we're not people that go to a certain event and look to be the center of attention. Okay, you know, some people, it's not even in the watch community. They go somewhere and people naturally gravitate to them.
Yeah,
there's something about them, right? They're not trying to be the center of attention. They're not speaking the loudest. And there's so many occasions where Long Long and I will sit on the side and just watch from a social behavior kind of point, men interacting with men, and laugh at how this is not normal behavior, right? Right. And if you can bypass that, and you know, for Long Long, she mentioned for her it's about seeing watches she hasn't seen, or to be honest, it's also the deeper side of that is learning something she doesn't know. So it's a learning thing. If you can have that conversation and get rid of the noise and bring it back to this foundation, it's really irrelevant who you are, what you have, all that kind of stuff, right? It's a lot harder to do than me just saying it. And I think that's why, if I'm sadly is to say, you know, I don't have many of these relationships, irrespective if Long Long was a man or a girl, you know, with many people. I just really don't. I mean, you know, I'm very fortunate that Jacqueline and Long Long, you know, came into my life through watch collecting, and I have this amazing connection with them. But it does take time, and it takes, in a nutshell, genuine honesty, be humble, and yeah, be all that good stuff. And then hopefully, you know, something happens, and that last thing that happens is not something that I think you can control. It's not out of you. It's just something between you, right?
Yeah, I
Right.
think experience of meeting other watch people does help. Like you guys actually point out, like who that behavior is actually not normal in the watch gathering or
Right.
watch shows, right?
Yeah,
So.
you know exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, I think if I had met Long Long earlier, as also, yeah, we might not be friends. A lot of the stuff that I've learned and had the experience of being in obscene wealth, being comfortable with myself in that kind of environment takes time, right? You have to see through a lot of stuff. You have to see through essentially the bullshit, right? If you go to first time you go to a watch together and everybody's chucking out, let's say, vintage Pateks, RMs down the thing, yeah, and you're coming with a Seiko, I don't care what you say, yeah, that is a brave guy, and if he can hold himself in that kind of setting, yeah, all credit to him. That's why I think a person that does that for the first time, and then somebody that has done it umpteenth times, that experience, you're going to realize, like in Chinese would say, 也就那样, right?
Yeah.
So you become more calm and you're more stable and more assured of yourself with more experience. I mean, to be honest, at the end of it, you got someone with a Richard Mille coming in on your 20th G2G, maybe even more nervous than you are, right? Feeling the need to impress somebody.
True.
Right?
Very true.
So that was a very long-winded answer, but I hope it gave you what you needed. Jacqueline, it's your turn.
Yeah, okay. So I think my next hump, I wouldn't say I need to get over it, but I just haven't found what speaks to me yet would be like certain independent brands. I know what I like, and I'm in the process of trying a few out in, hopes to know more about myself and learn about my taste and how it has evolved. But I think it'll be some time before I can like really say, oh yeah, this brand or their philosophy or their vision is really something that I can relate to and I admire. So I wouldn't call it a hump. I would just say it will take a lot more time and experience for me to find a small team of people who just really love what they do, and that's something I'm looking forward to. um yeah, I hope that answers your question. Thank you for that question, though. I never really thought about it. It's really good.
So would be a small team of a independent brand of a small team. Basically, you're saying.
Yes, and
Okay.
yeah, so I think I'm in the process of working with two brands on watches, and but I won't have them in my hand at least for like a year. So I just have to wait. And I think I did my due diligence before I went through with the projects. I think I will be happy, but who knows, right? It's not, you're not buying a mass produced market product. So I will only see and feel when I do get it in my hands. And you know what? Maybe I may not feel that spark. I don't know. So I'll just have to wait. And if I love it, like all the best, I would be really happy. If I don't, for certain reasons, that's like a learning experience for me to continue looking. So yeah, I think that would be the next.
Okay. You have one last question.
Yeah. So this is questions for Daniel. So what exactly watches are in your collection? I mean, I was very excited yesterday when I tried to re-listen some of the podcasts that you recorded with Alex and Long Long, right? There was like 30 minutes of the part 2 podcast talking about Daniel's collection. But still, I mean, I only heard 2 watches in that episode after 38 minutes is the Omega Seamaster and the Datograph, which I've seen in Shanghai. So what exactly are in your collection, Daniel?
Well, I've got to say, yeah. Well, generally, there's a common theme in the podcast, which is, not everybody is always comfortable. I'm not just talking about me here, like sharing everything in their collection. So that's one thing. That people are happy to talk about certain pieces, but not everybody's happy to expose all their pieces. So if you even look on the podcast that we do, we very rarely say, well, we don't say, tell us what everything is in your collection, because there's another factor in that, which is number 2. It's not that interesting to say, I got this, I got this, I got this, and I got this, unless there's a story to it, right? Because all it is just showing that I bought this, but can you tell me why you bought this? And if it's like, I liked it, and literally that's it.
That's it.
It's not that interesting to listen to.
Yeah.
Right.
But, going back to your question, somebody recently asked me that at the dinner, very recently. And I had trouble answering like the direction of where I want to go with my collection. And I will tell you the last couple of pieces I have bought. So I bought the Reverso, right, recently, the 1931 GMT duo face.
Yeah.
Right, ultra thin, classic shape.
Beautiful.
And I bought the Shanghai military watch, right?
I love that
one. Yeah, you see, if I said that, it's really hard for you to say, oh, where's the connection, right?
Yeah.
So the Reverso, the way I collect watches, is so different. It has to be so different. And I really had to give a lot of thought to this, because I see so many watches and I feel so many watches like away from boutique. So I'm not in the shop, right? And most people, when they see a watch on the internet, they'll look at it, they'll probably go to boutique, try it on, and then they think, I quite like it, I'm going to buy it.
Yep.
I will have a longer exposure of wearing that watch, feeling that watch, getting to know that watch, just because a lot of my friends have these watches, right? So I would have gone through a phase of wanting a Royal Oak 15202. I would have gone through a phase of wanting a 5711. But then over the period of time, I've gone past the other side where I don't want it anymore. So which pieces do I want to experience, and which pieces do I actually want to own? Right? It's very different.
Yeah.
And which means I don't have to buy a piece every like 1 month, 6 months later, I'm looking to get rid of it because I've had the experience of the piece. So the Reverso I bought because of a guy we've had on the podcast called Angus, Watch Mad Mac. So forget professionally what he's done. I don't really know professionally what he's done in his life, to what kind of level. But when I see him, I think, I would like to be him, how he holds himself in public, how he delivers it, how he is as a person. He brings that absolute class, and he's a big Reverso fan, right? So I thought, this guy has made such an impression on me, I would like to try a Reverso. I tried it, and I've fallen in love with the Reverso. I feel like I actually want to get. It's one of the rare pieces where I thought I could do with more than one Reverso, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's like how people get into Royal Oak and they think I need more than one Royal Oak. I've never felt that with the Royal Oak, because I think it's mainly design orientated, and you've got that shape of it and the bracelet. I think I'll just do with one, but the Reverso, I just see it has so much different energies depending on the piece, and I just think, oh wow, I really do. So that's why I got that piece. The military diver's watch is something that, if you listen to my podcast, you'll notice that I actually had quite a strong identity crisis when I was in the teenage years, of knowing like, am I Chinese? What am I doing in this English society? So that was really powerful for me, because I've really always wanted to identify with my Chinese roots, right? And if I want to get pieces, I'm a bit like you. I want the very best. Yeah. So the Reverso 1931, I think, is one of the best pieces you can get in the Reverso line. If you look, they're not that common around. It has the Reverso on the dial, no JLC logo, right? It has the baton markers, and it has the sword hands, and it's got a matte dial, like a opaline dial. I never think that watch works that well when it tries to shout. So if it's got like very polished indices with a sunburst dial, I think it's just too much for that watch. So it has that. And then it's always utilized as the second face, which is a GMT, which, to be honest, I keep on Vancouver time for Jacqueline. So I know exactly what time she's on.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I kept Vancouver time, so I know your time.
Really sweet. That's like
so there's a lot of things in that watch that I do, which is super meaningful. And it comes to the stage now where the pieces have to be meaningful. I don't want to look to trade in, trade out my pieces, because quite frankly, I don't need to do it, right? And then the Shanghai military watch, despite it being less than, I don't know, $500, I think it looks absolutely amazing. Untouched dial, original bracelet, few and far between to find in that condition.
You're so lucky.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's like what you say: if you know, you know, and if you don't, I don't really care. Right. So maybe that gives an answer. I don't really know what I would, really. Yeah, it's really hard to say. Yeah.
I mean, I saw that Shanghai Diver military watch, and also one of your podcast guests, Eric, at the Shanghai Watch Festival, and then that was the watch that I immediately fall in love when I saw the timeline watch. It's like, I need to have this one, but and then I immediately shared it in my IG, and then it was something that I think I would never thought that is so cool, and then it's got patina, that history to it, that whole Chinese history attached to that watch. That's my opinion, and I really like that piece, especially the one you have. I think also Eric, based on the podcast you guys, Eric also helped you find that one, right?
Yeah,
I'll tell you, it took me 6 months. You might laugh. It took me 6 months to find the Reverso I just bought. It took me more than a year to find the diver's watch, the Shanghai military watch. So I'm quite happy to wait, and that's the test of time. Something's timeless. It doesn't matter. It will come, right? Sure. And a year later, I'll still love it. Another thing I love about that military watch is that it's such a contrast between China back then and what China is now. And I'm extremely proud of China. You know, I love China and what they've done. It's a miracle of what's happened, but it's also a sign that it wasn't that long ago that people weren't living in this kind of state. And to be honest, it's the work of those people that give the foundation of what China is today. So it's like my respect, my little nod to them. I appreciate what you guys did, right? When, to be honest, you were just born at the wrong time, right? If you were born like 50 years later, maybe you'd be living in our life, right?
You're talking, you're talking to Team Taiwan right now. Just kidding. No, I love China. I love China.
Right. That's it. That's my little speech ruined there. But anyway, let's go on to the quick fire before we start like the next Cold War. Number one, your favorite IG account?
Horror Mario Bro.
Okay, right. Number two, are you into anything else aside from watches?
I'm into many things. Bicycle is one of them. Cycle and basketball and golf. I'm actually trying to pick up kite surfing this summer. So I picked up in Vietnam a couple years back, but I'm trying to pick up kite surfing, like really learning about it because it takes skill sets. So those are things that I'm into currently.
Okay. What is the 5-second rule?
Oh my God.
The too long didn't read version of it is when you think of something the right thing to do, you just count backwards to yourself like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. The counting will actually help you focus on the goal and the commitment, and that distract you from the worries and thoughts and excuses on your mind.
Can I just say, is that Mel Robbins?
Yes.
I am obsessed with her. And the Rocket 5432. Oh my God, I'm so obsessed with her. Okay. I love her.
Right. Number 4. What is your favorite book?
When you said that, I thought about you drop a food and you can still eat it after 5 minutes.
That's 3-second rules. That's 3-second rules.
Show about this.
Right.
Well, 5 seconds. That's like 5 hours. You can still eat it.
No, like you can still dropped on the ground, and if it hasn't been 5 seconds.
Yeah, and Long saying it's a 5-hour rule.
It's a 5 hour. It could even be 5 days. Like it looks edible.
If it's
because it's cheese.
Yeah, exactly. If it's cheese in Long's book, there is no time
this
limit.
is what Long does. Okay, she would spill milk while she's drinking. And then after 5 days,
5 years,
and just pick it up and eat it as cheese on a cracker.
Right. Number 4. What's your favorite book?
My favorite book is Getting More by Stuart Diamond.
Oh, okay. I know that book. I will check it out.
Yeah, it's actually basically a negotiation book that you actually find out that there's actually different. If you have high EQ, you can get more in life, and you can negotiate out many things that you can do. I often buy this book for friends that I give them as gift because I think that everybody can learn a few things or two. Closing deals with that books and the information they provide. Stuart Diamond is I think a Wharton professor. At Wharton. Yeah.
So
that's even better then, because that means I don't have to get the book then.
Yeah. Why?
Well, he just said he gives it to his friends.
Sure. I'll get you one. I'll get you one.
Like, I was gonna say like maybe Lung should buy it right now. Maybe it'll help her for negotiations when she's trying to buy it.
Exactly. Okay, Joe, if you're gonna get down the book, rip out the most important pages.
I'll send it to you then. I'll send the important ones to you.
Yeah.
Right. Number 5. The place that we have to eat if we visit Taiwan.
Yeah. If my mom is still around, I would say my house. But since she's not, then I really cannot recommend anything because I'm really not a foodie. I think it's one of those things I give up in my life. But if there's one place I will recommend is and which has become a common meetup place for people at Redbar Taiwan is the Hooters.
Dude, imagine the people in the US listening to this. Like, what? Go to Taiwan to go to Hooters.
Let me explain. So in Taiwan, you don't really have to pay for tips, by the way, but because it's not customary in the system here. But I think the Hooters in Taiwan is such a great atmosphere. Really, and the food. Don't trust me, the food is great there. The potato skin, the cheesecake, the shrimp, and the chicken wings, of course.
But that's exactly the reason why you go there.
Yes, that's the food. Definitely the food.
Yeah.
So, and we have the one of the hottest and the friendliest waitress in the world.
Dude, that's so funny.
Hooters can provide.
Okay.
Every time Chris watches some beaches on Instagram, he's like, dude, the food at Hooters is so good. I was like, can you just be serious? Like, I actually want to know, is it good? He's like, no, it actually is good.
It really is. It really is. And if you want to go to pub or club or bars later after work, and you want to go for pre-drink, Hooters is a best place to be as well. You're just so happy when you go there. Hooters make you happy.
Okay. Instead of telling someone that's going to Taiwan for the first time, hey, go to Din Tai Fung or something, you're like, no, go to Hooters.
The Hooters.
Yeah, so Din Tai Fung is so cliche.
I want Din Tai Fung. I miss their eggs.
All right.
Rice.
We're going to wrap this up, guys. Thank you, Joe, for sharing your personal watch stories. I found it very fascinating to listen to. And that was even after the second time I've listened to it, to be honest. I look forward to getting you back on. We need you back on and talk more about this amazing hobby that we have. So thanks, everybody, for listening. And thank you, Joe. See you guys on the next one. Ciao.
Bye.
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 Thank you for tuning in to the Waiting List podcast. Hit the subscribe button and the next episode will come straight to your phone as soon as it's ready. Whilst I'm here, please remember to leave a nice review and follow us on Instagram at the Waiting List Podcast.